And keep your phones off and stay seated during our speaker. Now help me enthusiastically welcome our speaker all the way from the Verde Valley, Bill.
I'm Bill, I'm an alcoholic. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Mike. When Mike called me and asked me to speak, he asked me if I wanted to speak, and I'll go to any lengths to stay sober. I never say no to an AA request, and we'll talk about a little bit about that later on, why I never say no. But I said, yeah, sure, I'll do it, of course. And he says, I just have two conditions. He said, wear something nice and don't say the F word. And I thought, he's been to our home group, and that's why he had to warn me ahead of time. That or one of my construction sites, one or the other. But we use that word a lot at work. So anyway, congratulations with the chip takers. I'm just keep coming back, and those years just build up, and we just stay put no matter what. That's it kind of took me back to when I was a week sober. I hadn't had a drink or anything for a whole week, and I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe that I had put together an entire week. I was going to a meeting every day and work every day, and before I knew it, there was a week, and that just impressed me to no end. I mean, I thought, my goodness, I'd never put together that kind of time, 1 week, unless they picked me up and put me in jail. But for the most part, I just never done that, it's Alcoholics Anonymous. Just I always say yes, because I just can't. I'll never be able to pay you guys back for what you've done for me. I have an awesome life today because of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it just wasn't like that 30 years ago. My sobriety date is April 24th, 1994, and I wasn't doing good April 23rd, and I was even doing worse April 24th. I mean, you take all my booze away and my drugs, and I'm just a raw nerve, it was pretty rough. I on one hand, I wanted to be sober, but on the other hand, I just couldn't. I wanted to be drunk. I just couldn't picture myself in any kind of sobriety, and my motives for coming here was not long-term sobriety at all. It was, I just wanted to feel my problems to go away. I just wanted life to get easier. I wanted the girlfriend to come back. She left because my drunkenness, it was insane, and I was always, I love what the book said, I was always more or less insanely drunk. And that's how it was with me. There was never like this, oh, Bill's got a buzz. It was never like that. I've never had anybody say, Bill's got a real nice buzz going. It's just never been like that. It was always more or less insanely drunk. And I didn't drink for the taste or for just a little buzz. I drank for effect. I drank to put the darn fire out. And restless, irritable, and discontent is what the doctor says, and that fits me to a T. We moved out here to Arizona when I was 7 years old. I was born up in the Pacific Northwest in a little town called Crescent City, California, and it's right there on the Oregon border, and a nice little place. It was it rained every day, but other than that, it was a nice little place. And we Dad gathered us all up, and I really have no idea why he gathered us all up, but he moved us to Cameron, Arizona. And I don't know if any of you know where Cameron is, but it's about 50 miles north of Flagstaff, and we're out there in the middle of nowhere, and so that's where that's where I spent a lot of my childhood, growing up out there, and went to school in Tuba City, Arizona, and I remember it was out there that I had my first drink. I didn't get drunk, but my dad drank a lot, and he always had the flu. He's always sick, but he was a healthy guy, really. He was very active. He was a mechanic, but he always was catching the flu. And later on, I realized me and my brother always had the flu, and we got older too. We were always hungover, and that's the flu. But I didn't really pay too much attention of it. And out there in Cameron, there really wasn't much for the adults to do, and there was even less for us kids to do. But every now and then, Dad and Mom would have a party, and he'd clear his shop out. He had a big steel mechanic shop, and he'd clean it all up, and all of the friends would come, and they'd have a party. And I'm 8 years old, and the next morning after the party, I go into his shop, and you know how a party looks the night after if nobody's cleaned up the night before, or the day after if nobody cleaned up the night before. It's just a disaster, right? A tornado. And I go in there, and there's a bottle of Old Crow sitting on the table with a bunch of other stuff, mostly garbage, but Old Crow, and there was this much in it, and I just grabbed it. I don't know why, I just grabbed it. I guess I just wanted to try. I was 8 years old, and I took a pull of that Old Crow, and it was the worst thing I ever tasted in my life. But I'll never forget the effect. How it went down, and it just warmed me up. It was horrible tasting. I almost puked, and I couldn't understand why the grown-ups liked that, but I always remembered as it was going down and what it did. It just took over my body, and it's like, I just didn't know what to think of it. So that was my first drink, and we got we ended up getting off the res and moving. We started moving around a lot. Dad taught me about geographics. When the heat comes, you just you pack up, and you move to another place, and so we did a lot of moving around, and the first time I actually started drinking, it was in 8th grade, and there again I wasn't into that. I didn't want to be drunk or high, but my sister was doing it, and my brother was doing it, and there were 3 of us in our family. I'm the middle guy, and then my brother was a year younger, and my sister was a year older, and then there was Mom and Dad, so there was 5 of us, and we ended up in Las Vegas, Nevada, and it was my mom and Dad had gotten a divorce, and I ended up my stepdad and my mom just couldn't handle me anymore, and I had not even touched alcohol or drugs or anything yet, but I was just like a raw nerve, and Mom just said, "You gotta go live with your dad. We just can't. Mark just can't handle you." And so I moved to Las Vegas. They put me on an airplane. I moved to Las Vegas, and my dad and my sister were living there, and so it was me and my dad and my sister, and I just felt out of place. I mean, I'd felt out of place all my life, and it was real bad in 8th grade after I moved to Las Vegas. I just couldn't. I just didn't feel like I belonged anywhere at all, and everybody was doing the drinking and including my dad. And I used to brag about my dad. It's like, man, he is the coolest dad in the world. He let us smoke weed, and he let us drink. And later on, my counselor said, there's nothing cool about that child abuse bill. I'm not trying to turn you into a victim, but I just want you to know that's not normal, And that's what we did, and I just felt out of place and lonely, and I decided to peer pressure, I picked up and started drinking with my sister and all of her friends, and I fit right in right away. No more loneliness. I fit right into that crowd. We all had that thing going on. We liked to get messed up, and it didn't matter what kind of a personality any of us had. We didn't care. It was like we're in this club, and a fellowship, but we all drank, and I right away I fit right in, and even though I was an obnoxious 13-year-old, I still fit in because I did what they did, and I didn't really. I drank, 2 or 3 days a week with them, and just to fit in and just to be a part of, but didn't really get into it too much. And so me and my sister were real close, and she was walking one day, and I was going home, and she was just leaving home, I asked her where she was going. She says, "I'm just going to walk up to the store and buy me a pack of cigarettes, and then I'll be back." And so that's the last I saw Jerry. Her name was Jerry, and somebody had picked her up somewhere along the way on Boulder Highway, and killed her and threw her away in the Henderson Ponds, and we found her body a couple days later, and I didn't know what to do with that. But the one thing I remember is right away, it was the drinking picked up immensely, and the drug use. I know this is AA meeting, sorry about the drug talk, but the drug, everything, just escape reality, not feel this pain. And the funeral was probably the worst day of my life. And it was, but right afterwards, I hooked up with the friends, and we partied, and I stayed pretty drunk and high all during high school, and I didn't do well in high school with I didn't get along with the teachers real well. My building trades teacher, he loved me, and I loved him. His name was Carl Olson, and basically for 3 hours a day we'd go and build a house. Every year we'd build a house, and then the school would sell it, and the next year we'd build another house. And that's how I learned to do what I do today. And it got to where I hit 11th grade, and I was flunking all my classes except my straight A's that I was making in building trades. And the principal said, the teachers don't want you. Mr. Olson's the only one that wants you. And he said, so, let's just throw you in building trades all day long. And so that's what they did with me. And that's how high school was. And I learned, at least I learned, that in there. But by the time I got out of high school, I had ended up down in South Texas, and that's where my mother was living. And I'd gotten in trouble, and where my dad lived, and so I ran away, like he taught me, and I ended up in South Texas, and that when I got down there, I had no idea what to expect, and it was like, I thought everything I need is right down here. I was 18 years old. Mexico was 5 miles away. You could drink at age 18 down there, and it's everything I need right here. This is perfect, and I'm down there for, I got a job in the oil field and worked in oil field construction, but the drinking started really getting to be a problem. It was like that from day one, from the first time I drank at 13. The phenomenon of craving hit me every time. Every time I put booze in my body, I craved more. And it was just like that. And that didn't come up from behind me at some other age. That happened from day one. And so basically every time I put booze in my body, I craved more booze. And I can't have just one. I've never been able to control my drinking in that manner at all. And to this day, if I go out here today, it'll be the same thing. I know it. And the reason why I know it is sometimes some of you go out and drink and you come back in and report to me or to us, and you guys say the same thing. The phenomenon is still there. It just never leaves us. So it's just the way we are, and I just want to accept that. I getting in a lot of trouble and just really not functioning well. And my dad called me one day and he says, "How you doing down there?" And I said, "I'm not doing too good, Dad. I'm having a lot of trouble with the drinking, and I'm trying to quit, and I just can't." And he says, "Oh, I got just the thing for you." And he said, "In the mail, you're going to get an envelope full of pills, and you're going to love this." And he said, "When you get the pills, give me a call." And so a few days later, sure enough, there's the envelope with pills, these little white pills that big around in them. And he says, "Okay, this stuff's called Antabuse." And he says, "I've been controlling my drinking for years with this stuff." And he said, "This works really good." He says, "You take one in the morning," and he said, "but don't drink, because if you drink, you're going to get deathly sick." And I said, "Okay, why not?" So I took one and he said, "You only have enough for, less than a week here. So once you're dead, you're going to have to go to the doctor and get your own prescription." And so I used them up and I thought, yeah, okay, this is working all right. And I'm in the doctor's office getting me a prescription of these things. And the doctor came in, and that was the reason for my visit, is I asked for Antabuse. And the doctor came in and sat down, and he said, "You got a little problem with drinking? Is that why you want to do it?" And I said, "Yeah, I can't control my drinking." He said, "Well, I'm going to write this for you. I'm going to give you a little talk first." He said, if you take one of these and you drink, you're going to get sicker than you've ever been before." And he says, "It's going to F you up." And he didn't say that, he said the word. And I've never heard a doctor swear like that before. He was trying to tell me something. Don't drink on this stuff. And I believed him. I believed Dad, and I believed the doctor. And so walked away with the Antabuse, and not long after that, I had a hard day. I don't know. Things weren't going my way. Restless, irritable, and discontent. Right? Who knows? We don't need an excuse to drink. We just get that thing inside of us, that fire. And I thought, yeah, I'm just going to have a sip. And I had taken an Antabuse that morning, and I cracked open a Budweiser and started drinking on it. And oh my goodness, the blood pressure came up, the face and my body was as red as that cap right there. I mean, I was just redder than hell, and I started puking. I thought I was going to die, and it's weird. This stuff is it raised my blood pressure or something, but the heart, I smoked at that time, and the cigarettes were just pounding. My heart was just pounding out of, and I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna die, and more puking, and it was just, I just like, yeah, this stuff really works here, I don't know, I don't even know if I got that. I don't think I got the full beer down. It was just the sickest I've ever been in my life, and the next morning, I get up to go to work, and I take another Antabuse, and because it works so good. And guess what I did at night after I got home from work? I didn't die, right? And so I took another one. I cracked open another Budweiser, and same thing, man. Boom, boom. With the heart and the red thing, and just it's sick. A little less. I had less symptoms that time, though. I was able to hold down a few more before I was floored, and that little thing went on for years, and I don't know. I was 19 at that time, and I think I 23, sometime, I did that for not all the time. I'd get off that Antabuse because it was bad for me, right? But I went through off and on with the Antabuse thing for maybe 3 or 4 years, and I just got to a point where I was just terrified for my life and terrified to die. And I did what any alcoholic would do. I blamed it on the Antabuse. I said, the Antabuse is killing me here, and so I gave up the Antabuse, and and that's just the way it was. I always blamed something else for my drinking. I never wanted to admit the problem really is, me and ingesting, it's the alcohol. I always blamed the cops or my parents or the Antabuse or anything. Sometimes it was the booze. I was like, I'm never going to drink a Tequila Sunrise ever again because I got sick on Tequila Sunrise, and I'm never going to drink that again. I don't think I ever did it. I blame my drunkenness on Tequila Sunrise, and I'd blame it. I just never took responsibility for that sort of thing, and so I stopped using the Antabuse and quit getting sick. But by the time I stopped using that, I had built up a 5 beer tolerance. I could take an Antabuse in the morning and I could drink 5 beers and I'd still get sick. But the price we pay to drink, when we want to drink, we're going to drink. That's all there is to it. Nothing in the world is going to stop me if I decide to drink. There's just nothing. You can pick me up and you can throw me in jail and I won't drink. But man, if that doesn't happen, if I want to drink, I'm going to drink, and we'll pay the price. We're fearless when it comes to that. I mean, it just, we don't care about the consequences. We don't even think about that. We don't think about what happened at the last drink where I walked into Denny's and I urinated in front of 50 people. I don't think about that, but that happened, and I was in a blackout and I was in my little secondhand store and these 2 women came in the store and they said, they were talking amongst themselves and they said, and I finally said, hey, I knew they were talking about me. I was nursing the hangover and I said, what's going on? You guys, what's happening? She says, we saw you in Denny's last night. You came in there really drunk and you urinated in front of all of us. And it's like, oh my God. And it's like, yeah, that's what I do, and it didn't, that night I drank. And so, you're just not going to scare me into sobriety, When I finally did get sober, nothing really all that bad happened. And I was tired more than anything. I just tired of living like that, and I'll get into that later. But I ended up back up in Northern California, and my dad gotten sick. And I went up there to take care of him. And really, the truth of it is, I didn't go up there to take care of him. I'm too selfish to take care of anybody when I'm drinking. I went up there because I needed to get out of Cottonwood. I needed to run away because the heat was on. I'd broken the law and I didn't want to pay the price. So I went up there. I'm going to go take care of my sick dad. So I went up there for about 5 years, and he ended up dying during that period of time. And he had a heart attack in his sleep, and he left me with everything. And there was 5 acres in the redwoods with equipment and all that. And I went on a bender after that, and I'd been drunk for about 5 days. And I went into this bar and I got into a barroom brawl with this guy, and I'm the only one that walked out of that place. And I did not want to pay the price. I'd already been convicted of 8 DUIs by that time, and I thought I'm going to run away, and I left everything that my dad left me. I packed up my truck and the dogs, and I came back down here to the Verde Valley, and I ran away, and I'm at Walker Lake in Nevada. It's out in the big old lake out in the middle of nowhere, and it's just windier than hell. And I'm walking out there, and I'd been up in Oregon. I got sober in a tent up there, and I ended up, doing my geographic and coming about halfway through Nevada, and I stopped, and it hit me. It's like, you know what? This is a bad thing that's happened, but this is what it's going to finally take to get sober, is losing everything that I own and everything that my dad had left me. And so it kind of lifted my spirits up a little bit. And so I came on down to the Verde Valley, and I'm here I got a job down here, and I'm here for about a week. And I'm get off work and just went into this little convenience store, and I just was going to get a Pepsi, and I thought, yeah, I'll just get a 16-ounce can of Budweiser, and got that, and drank it, and I didn't get out of that parking lot until I had two 6-packs, and I was headed home and drunk again. And it didn't. Losing everything did not work. That does not work at all, And so, about a year later, I met this gal in the bar, and her name's Val, and we started dating, and it was a real rocky relationship, and we fought a lot, and it was very chaotic, and I couldn't control her, and it just drove me crazy. And that relationship, it just brought me to my knees, and I got sober, and I woke up one morning, and I had the gun. I had a .22 Magnum in my hand, and I was on the living room floor, and I saw bullet holes in the ceiling. I'd been playing with the gun again. And I don't remember, but and no Val. Val was gone. And I don't know if I'd scared her off with the gunplay or she just wanted to get out of there. And, I thought I just can't do this anymore, and that's the tired I'm talking about. I was only 33 years old, and I cannot do this anymore. I don't know what to do. I go to AA, go back to AA. I'd been to AA before, and I went to the Verde Valley Alano Club, and that's where I got sober, and that was April 23rd. 1994, and that night after that meeting, there was some weed on the floor, and I scrounged it up and rolled it and smoked it, and I changed my sobriety date to the next day, because I believe in that. I believe that I've got to be abstinence from all mind-altering drugs and alcohol, and if I pick up and use drugs, I got to change my sobriety date. That's all there is to it. I cannot play around with that. And so anyway, I started coming in here to AA, and there was this guy that Charlie Hill is his name, and I couldn't stand him. He was at the Alano Club, and I can't stand him. He always bugged me too. After the meeting, he wanted to talk and shake my hand, and he remembered my name. Anybody who remembers my way, I thought, what do you want, man? I always thought that he had an angle, and at a week, I wanted to drink. I wanted to get drunk. And I was thirsty, and I was restless, irritable, and discontent. And I thought, oh man, I just don't. On one hand, I was impressed about having a week, but on the other hand, man, I just wanted to drink. And all I had been doing is going to meetings, and that was it. I wasn't doing any of the work that you guys talk about here. And I'd heard, you got to get a sponsor and start working the steps and all that. So I went up to Charlie's wife, and she was pretty good looking. And so I hit on her a little bit, and I thought I'd break the ice by just saying, I need to find I need some help. I need to, I don't know what I need. I need to do something here because I want to drink real bad. And she says, oh, you got to talk to my husband, and here's his phone number. And so I she took the wind right out of my sail right away. And so I went to I went to the phone and I called this guy the phone number, and he said, "Oh yeah, I'm Charlie. I'm going to meet you at this church meeting, and I'll be there tonight." And so I met him, and there he is. There's the guy I hate. There's the guy I don't like in the club that kept on bothering me. And it didn't matter at that point. I just, I'd already wanted to talk to him, and so I'm in the parking lot with him after the meeting, babbling to him. And he says, "Are you trying to ask me to sponsor you?" And I said, "Yeah, I am, as a matter of fact." I couldn't even get that out because asking for help, my pride was just so there, and so thank God Charlie helped me with that. And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Okay, go home and read up to the ABCs in the big book, and call me every day." And so I went home. About 3 days later, I did my reading, and I called him and I said, "Hey Charlie, I'm done with I'm up to the ABCs in the big book now." And he says, "Good, read it again." And that was my first resentment in AA. I mean, it's like, what are you trying to say? I can't read or what? And he was right. I was absolutely unable to comprehend anything. I could read, but I just couldn't comprehend anything. I mean, I was just so whippy, and so he had me read it again. And you know what he asked me out in the parking lot of that church? He said, "Are you after he said he'd be my sponsor, he says, are you willing to go to any length to stay sober?" And I lied and I said yes, because I wasn't, And he says, "Are you willing to follow a few simple directions?" And I lied again and said yes. And I didn't know he was going to throw that in my face. And when I balked about reading that again, I said, "I already read it once." And he says, "Read it again." And he says, "You told me that you were willing to follow some simple direction and that you're willing to go to any length to stay sober. So what's the problem here?" And so I read it again and called him. He says, he was nice to me after that. And so he said, "Come on, we're going to meet up." And so we met up and we started working. We started doing the steps. And he didn't let me leave his house until he had me going on the 4th step. We read from the very front of the big book all the way to, not every word for word. It was only a 2.5 hour sit down, but all the way up to the ABCs, and he asked me if A, B, and C pertain to me, and I said yes. He says, "Great, you've just done one and 2," and so we started reading word for word after the ABCs, and which is step 3. And oh my goodness, those words just like that pertains to me perfectly. I'm the actor trying to run the whole show. I'm trying to control you. I'm always trying to control everything. And I'm always playing God. And today I know that's just pride. It's just spiritual pride. That's me playing God. And I still get like that sometimes. That's my wife. But today I just go to a meeting and it's less today. So we get up to the ABCs and we read word for word and we do the 3rd step prayer on our knees. And that was odd. I just thought, oh my God. And I got absolutely nothing out of that step that night. I mean, I didn't get this spiritual awakening at all because I just felt so odd on my knees holding hands with another guy saying the 3rd step prayer. It's like, there's something wrong with this, and we got up and we started doing he already had inventory ready. He took it right out of the big book. And we started, he started one thing on the inventory. I am resentful at so-and-so. And he helped me through that first one. And he said, that way you can leave here and you've already started on the 4th step. I'll give you 2 weeks to finish. And 2 weeks rolled around and I'd done a little bit, but not much, and it was real hard for me to look at myself at that time. And he, after 2 weeks, I ran into him in a meeting and he said, "How's that 4th step coming?" And I said, I'm about halfway through and I'm here and, blah, blah, blah. And he says, "Okay." And he's kind of nice. He says, "Okay, yeah, all right, you just get her done." And so the next night we were at a men's big book study and he asked me again, he says, How's that 4th step coming?" And I said, "I'm at the same place as I was 24 hours ago, Charlie." And he says, I've had it. And he just turned around and I said, wait, Charlie, I want to talk to you about some stuff. And he said, no. And he put his hand up and he just walked away from me. And I thought to myself, he's fired. I'm done with him, man. Nobody's going to treat me like that, so I'm on my way home and I'm thinking, who could I get for a sponsor? And I'm just like, just trying to figure it all out and I'll, just very resentful at him. And it just hit me. It's like, why don't you just do the 4-step? That's what he wants. And so I sat down and finished it. And you know what? I called him the next night. I'd finished that 4-step, and he was real nice to me. He said, "Yeah, come on over." And when I came knock on the door, he gave me a hug. Even he was that nice. Never hugged me before. So yeah, he just wanted to help me. As all. He didn't care how rude he was to me. He just wanted me. Man. That man saved my life behaving with me like that. That's what I needed. I would probably not be here if he wouldn't have pushed me through that 4-step. I would have ended up drinking eventually, probably. Thank goodness he didn't sugarcoat and didn't handle me with kid gloves and none of that. And so, so Charlie ended up taking me through the steps I had to do a little, I had to do the 6th or the 5th step twice. I didn't tell him everything the first time around, but after I was miserable 2 weeks in AA, then I finally just said, I gave him all my secrets and life changed, man. I never felt the presence of God like that so powerful in my life. And so we get to the 11th step. And he said, or the 12th step, and we read chapter 7. And he says, okay, now it's time for you to carry this message to somebody else. I said, what do you mean by that? He says, I want you to sponsor other people and show other new guys what I've just shown you. And I said, I am absolutely not well enough to help anybody else. He says, that's precisely why you need to help other people. And I didn't understand what he meant at that time, but I do today. When I help you, I do better. When I don't, and that's all there is to it. When I'm at a meeting and I'm giving, it's a good meeting. But if I walk out of a meeting and say that was a crappy meeting, then what I was doing is taking. And I was taken from that meeting and I wasn't there to give anything. It can be the worst meeting in the world, but as long as my attitude is right and I'm giving, it's going to be a darn good meeting, no matter how crappy it is or how unorganized it is, And so that's what I've learned to do in Alcoholics Anonymous is a service work. And we went through a little deal in our home group not long ago. It was 3 or 4 years ago. It was during the COVID thing, and we had disagreements in our group about how to handle the COVID thing, and do we lock the building, do we lock our room down or not? And some of us said yes, and a lot of them said no. And as part of the committee, we decided to lock the room down, but others just had the meeting anyway. And man, I got to tell you, that gave me an attitude, and I went for a long period of time sober. I was still sober, but I was not in AA. You know what I mean by in AA? When we're really doing it and we really we're trying to help people and we're there to give and we're serving. I was doing as little as possible in AA because I had this resentment. And basically I was the bleeding deacon. I was 25, 26 years sober and I'm the bleeding deacon. It didn't go my way and here's my resentment. And that's how it went, And I let go of that. And when I finally let go of that, I got things became good again, it just goes back to when I'm involved and I'm sponsoring guys and I'm doing what's asked of me, my life is real good. And so like I said, my wife's here. I'm going to just touch on that real quick. Her name is Ginger, and me and Ginger got married 10 years ago. And I met Ginger in Alcoholics Anonymous. We were just friends. And you know, and she's the last person that I thought I would ever be with. And I had never been married before. I had never been in any kind of relationship with anybody at all before, because I was always more or less insanely drunk. And in the first 20 years of my sobriety, I was just nuts, and I kept picking the wrong people to be with. I did not want, I was just picking chaotic relationships. And I hit my knees one day. I said, you know, I'd rather just be sober, God, the rest of my life than to be in any more chaos like this. And not long after that, I met Ginger, and we became friends, and then we started dating. And, you know, a couple of years later, we were married, you know. And I just, you know, it gets better for me every day. And it is by far the healthiest relationship I've ever been in my life. And we're not perfect at this, but, you know, we're both in AA, and we both use the program. And when I screw up, talk to her about it right away. The other night I lied to her about something. It was a stupid lie. It was just like me trying to save face. And we continued our conversation, and I got about a minute into that conversation. I couldn't have it anymore until I made it right with her. I said, Ginger, I just lied to you. And she says, I kind of thought maybe you were. And, you know, I just talked to her about that. And it's like, thank God, you know. And I just, and so, yeah, it's a very spiritual thing, our marriage, you know. And I'm just, I just kind of, I just really want to wrap it up by saying thanks for having me here. And I'm going to shut up now. So